Hey there friends, welcome back to my channel and happy Wednesday to everyone. As you might have guessed from the picture in the thumbnail, we are now working on the March challenge today. I just had so many peeps reach out to me and request the dollar download for Easter. So this is our printable. I'm trying to make sure I have one for every season. And so a lot of peeps were like, hey, we need our Easter printable so we can start working on our projects. So I wanted to refocus my energy on that. And so we're just going to move on from that March challenge. I've got a tutorial today with the printable. That's the dollar download for Easter. And then I'm going to share some other projects that I created. I'll walk you through those. So make sure you stick around to the end and I'll show you those projects. But for now, we're going to be creating this beautiful slimline Easter greeting card with the dollar download printable from the shop. First, let me apologize very quickly for that noise that you hear in the background. That's the furnace running. It is so cold here in Michigan still, so we're just going to have to work with that on. Here is the printable, and this time, instead of having a separate focal image, I created a tag with the image on it so that it could be used independently from the printable sheet if you want to put a label on something or a tag. It has a very sweet little bunny, some eggs and foliage and butterflies, and a small section here if you want to add a name or something onto that. So I have it paired with a beautiful damask pattern, or damask. I'm not really quite sure how to pronounce that actually. It's very fresh and bright and cheerful. I have this as a full-size background piece, so it would work for your 5 by 6.5 inch cards. And then they have two layering patterns. So this one is kind of a peach background with a gold geometric on it. So that works as your first layering pattern. And then the second one has a very petite little carrot with an off-white background so that it definitely looks like a layering pattern. There's also a background piece if you want to stack your images on top of it. And then of course we need a sentiment for this to be an Easter greeting card printable. So there you go. We have a project ready for a tutorial, and I'm going to work on a slimline greeting card. Now you do have to do a bit of paper piecing to cover the front of this profile. So my slimline cards are 4 by 9, and so we're going to have to do some layering and some clever piecing to get this all covered. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring in this green cardstock. It's actually the B size of a different pattern. I'm going to pop this up on a spacer. So we're going to get our first level of dimension straight off the bat. I'm going to pull this a little closer to me so that I can see over it to get it positioned well. I'm just too short to see over without getting my head in the camera. So I'm just adding this with a double-sided foam tape, and that will be centered on the white cardstock. And so that's going to give us a nice double border. If you want to finish the inside of your card, just go ahead and cut another piece of the cardstock that matches the front, and then I recommend pulling some paper from your stash. I would like to see a full-size piece on the inside, so I'll go looking through my paper stash for that, and then add a section for sentiment to be added. That way you are going to get through a little bit more of the paper that you have on hand. Okay, so here is the cardstock base, and it's kind of a spring green or maybe even a celery color. And here are the pieces of my damask, and I just cut that to fit inside of that green cardstock border. So this would be 3 7/8 by 8 7/8. There's going to be a gap because we do have to do some layering to get that covered. So let's just add these to the top and the bottom. And so this is just going to act as a regular background. If you like a more vintagey look, you could also ink the edges. I like to keep my Easter projects a little bit more cheerful and bright, so I'm not going to do that, but if that is the style you like, you go ahead and finish it however it makes you happy. So here is the background, and I want to also stretch those layering pieces so that they look bigger than they actually are. And so I've cut my background just in half so that I can put it on two portions behind another layering piece. And I used a dovetail stitch die to cut that carrot paper. I'm going to show you just how I would position this so that it would look like a full-size piece underneath the next layer. So I'll just lay that background near the strip of paper. I just cut it to be the length that I want, and I can add this as a separate piece underneath. So I'll just add a couple of strips here of my double-sided adhesive tape. I know that's how far up it goes. Pull the backing off, then I'll just move this out of the way for a moment, and then I'm going to bring in my other dovetail. So I just took the other side of that and got that notched out with the die as well. I want to bring in just a little bit more dimension, so this doesn't look like it's printed right on the background. It's a definite layering piece. So I'll flip this over. I'm going to add my foam squares. These are the 3D foam tabs that I get from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I absolutely love these because they are just a little bit dimensional but not super bulky. They come in two different sizes. That's very convenient because, see, this one I can put at an angle and get it right in the corner, and then the larger ones I can position across the top so that I don't go through quite so many of those smaller ones. And so there is quite a lot in here. This package is going to go a long way, and you can cut these very easily if you have a pair of Teflon scissors like I do. I didn't bring them down today because I didn't need them, but you can definitely cut through these without gumming up your regular scissors so that you can get the exact size that will work for your project. So I'm just gonna continue to take the backing off of those tabs and press this into place kind of right in the middle and a little bit up from the bottom, because there is kind of a detail of that color on the back. So I don't want to lose that. Okay, so now I can press this into place, and I'm just going to mostly eyeball the center. I want to have it look like it's one long piece, so I don't want it to be at a different width from the side. And that will just stay in place. So you can see I have already added a little adhesive to the back, so let's take that off now as well. And I'm placing it slightly right of center because we do have fairly large flowers to bring in, and I want to make sure to be able to see some of this behind all those beautiful florals. So now we have more or less finished the top and bottom, but we've got to cover the middle, and here is where that first layering pattern is coming in, and that's just going to be cut at 3 3/4 inches wide as well, because we want to take advantage of that cardstock border that we already put in. So there is a good way to cover that amount of background with just one printing of that collage sheet. Now here's my tag. I cut it out. I put an eyelet here and a little bit of twine through there, and I popped this up on a spacer as well. And then I've also got my sentiment. So what I want to do first is connect these two pieces so that I know I have plenty of room on the side for it to fit. So I just kind of added that right to the foam tape, and you can see now I can position this exactly where I want. Once again, we're going to the side a little more to give us room for our flowers. So I didn't have room on this card for a doily, but that's okay because we still going to get quite a lot of detail from the remaining items that we're going to add. So I did mention flowers, and I've got a combination here. They're all from Really Reasonable Ribbon. I'm bringing in my Lotus Flower, and I would generally take out this stamen and replace it with something that would match my project better, but the yellow works just fine for Easter. In fact, it coordinates really well with this chrysanthemum. So if you haven't checked these out from Really Reasonable Ribbon, here's my little bin of them. They're absolutely beautiful and just perfect for all of your spring flowers. So I get them in all the different colors so I can mix and match them. And they work great as a layering flower as well because it has a smaller, more shapely petal. And so it looks like a totally separate, different flower. And then I've paired this also with some peach colored cherry blossoms so that I can kind of bridge the gap between the larger flowers and the foliage. And this is just my standard die cut leaves, some netting. I put a skeleton leaf in here of glitter, just bring a little bit of sparkle. These are identical, and I'm going to position one on top and one on the bottom. And so I want to just kind of lay these in to start so that I can see where they're falling. And I think I might just even scoot this one over a little bit. We're going to lose a little bit of the pattern here on the side of our tag, but that's okay because we're adding flowers over flowers, so we're not really losing out on that. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that with hot glue because they're pretty heavy and I want them to be very secure. So that is my flowers. Now I've got a bow here, and this is tied from a lime juice colored stitched satin. This is also from Really Reasonable Ribbon. This is going to be my favorite springtime trim this year. I think it is just so bright and fresh and cheerful. I topped it with an additional bow of loopy twine and a little vintage button, and I'm just going to kind of squish this in here like it's nestled in, and that helps to extend our flower arrangement to make it look much longer than it actually is. I don't have fragile bits hanging over the side too much so that I'm not concerned that they will get damaged. And then I've got a little bunny charm I'm going to add to the top here, and then finish that off with another vintage button. I do have room here on the bottom for a couple of sequins just to add a little extra detail. I'm going to place 3 of them here and adhere them with my Tombow. So that's all for our slimline Easter greeting card created with our printable, and this was just one printing of that collage sheet. I've got a couple of other projects to share here as well, and these have also been created with just one printing. I wanted to show you how versatile it can be. The different kinds of cards are like a standard 5 by 6.5. I have layered my beautiful geometric on top of my damask, and instead of using my tiny carrots as a whole separate layering piece, I just worked that in so that it looked like it was part of the background. And I've got my beautiful chrysanthemums here and some of my sequins and the charm. For this card, I did bring in a little bit of stickles just to bring out some of the details. I've also created a 6 by 6 card, and I had fun with the placement of my layering patterns on this one. Instead of just using it to separate it into 2 sections, I positioned it so that I had a little more of that green showing. I've got a large doily here, and that helps to break up a little bit of those busy patterns. So I cut the tag on this one, leaving a white border so that you could see it does look more like an ephemera piece if you have that white border on there. But I did pop both of these tags up as well with a spacer and finish them with twine and an eyelet. And so on this one, I cut my carrot paper with a tag die that had a little stitched edge, and I positioned my sentiment here on the bottom. Even though it covers a little bit of the tag, I still have those sweet little eggs and the foliage showing, so I think that looks really cute. Still got that same stickling detail and pretty much the same flower arrangement with the chrysanthemums and the cherry blossom. And for my last project, instead of making another card, I wanted to do a little bit of a home decor, and I have made these little houses for quite a long time. If you have gotten one of my kits in the past, I used to share them with a lot of project ideas, and so I would always make a little house with the kit, and these are a lot of fun to make. The whole front is covered with all of those pretty patterns, and it is on a base of a double layer of 110-pound cardstock, so it's really sturdy. And then I just use a piece of pattern paper from my stash to cover the back because I wanted it to have a nice finished look. So this one has the carrots on the roof along with that geometric, just so that it has kind of a little bit more detail. I finished it with some additional buttons and a charm, of course, and this is a kind of a similar arrangement, but I switched out my yellow flower for one that had more peach. And then the offcut for that geometric I stretched across the bottom, and I did piece that together, but because it's a geometric, it really doesn't show any seams. And I've got a smaller doily here just for some detail. And then of course, beautiful lace trim, that's crocheted lace and a tinsel twine on top, just for a little bit of extra holiday detail. So that's our cards for today, and like I mentioned, I made these all with just one printing each of that collage sheet, so you can see how versatile it is. I got a link in the top of the description if you want to check that out. Remember, this is $1 download, and it's an instant download, so you can get to work right away if you are so inspired. If you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know in the comments, and also give me a big thumbs up for this video. You can find links for all our social media sites in the description below, and if you're not already, I would love for you to join my crafty little family, so hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll get notified every time we add new content. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye!